You start with self love. You
Okay.
really start with self love. The only way we can keep doing this journey is because we love ourselves so much that how could we stop ourselves from living more joyfully, from how could we diminish ourselves or hold ourselves back when we love ourselves? I don't think most people actually understand what self love is. But self love is wanting you to be you and not accepting being reduced by fear, being reduced by shame, or shutting yourself down. Because that is not in your love, self love's most interest. Like self love is wanting you to be nourished and to grow and to be free. And if we go on this journey that is, we have to look at our shadows, we have to look into our pains and our blockages. There's a lot of things that can be very heavy sometimes. If we do it because we feel like we have to, and like we would be like, it would be so much struggle again. It's just like pushing things through. And if we cannot have self compassion and some mercy, that it is okay. We're doing our best and we will keep on going and we're doing what is best for us, but there's no need to beat ourselves down. I mean, that is the way that we can keep walking forward and actually enjoy. It's we have to go back to this self-care and self-love. And self-love is not to cut ourselves slack. Self-love is not to allow ourselves to stop and just like watch Netflix. That's not self-love. That is quite the opposite of self-love. That is
Mm.
stopping us from being ourselves. Self-love is I love myself so much that I cannot wait to live the life I came here to live and live more joyful. That is the real drive to keep going.
Welcome to today's episode of Unleash Thyself. I am your host, Konstantin Morun, and today's guest is Aline Ra M. Aline is a spiritual guide, healer, teacher, writer, facilitator, yogi, and speaker. She guides individuals on their spiritual path, and she supports people to establish solid foundations for spiritual growth and soul fulfillment so that they can establish a direct self sustained connection to the divine through nothing but themselves. So, prepare yourself for an unforgettable conversation that's sure to leave a lasting impression. Welcome back to Unleash Thyself, the podcast that inspires and empowers you to unleash your full potential. I am thrilled to welcome Aline Ra M to the show. Aline, we can't wait to hear more about the experiences and insights that have led you to where you are today and your unleashed moment, the moment you knew you are on your own path to becoming the best version of yourself. Aline, please.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me here, Constantine. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. And
Michael.
yeah, I work as a spiritual guide and healer, and I've been on the spiritual path since I was a teenager, which is not exactly usual. But I also had a very normal life. I went to business school and so on. So it's not exactly like I've always been only spiritual. I'm also part of this world. And a lot of what I do is uniting these two. So I started, yeah, very early in life. And I had the chance of having people around me that could put me in my path, so to speak. I think sometimes we are curious, but not really sure where to begin. And
Mhm.
one of the things I'm most grateful for is that I've always had the right people around me to guide me in a way or another.
That's a really good point because I'm looking back at my life, and even though I had these questions in mind, is there more to life than just a 9 to 5? Is there more out there? And if you don't have friends or family to look that are on that path, it's very hard to find. And for me, it took quite a few years. I'm curious to see. I believe you mentioned you started at 14 years old. How did it all start for you?
Well, it didn't start in a good way.
Okay.
It started out of fear. I started having experiences when I was a teenager. I actually started when I was 12, 13. It just took until I was 14 to actually know what to do about it. But when I was a teenager, I started hearing voices. And a lot of children might have similar experiences, but then as they get to teenagehood, given social stigmas and stuff, they shut that down and they don't really remember. I don't actually think I heard voices when I was 4 or 5 years old. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't remember. But what it was very different for me is that I actually started hearing them very loud when I was 12, 13. And those were not nice voices, were actually voices that scared me. It made me very scared of sleeping because I would normally hear them at night. So that is how it began. I began to have these experiences and not really know what to do about them because both of my parents are scientists, are not spiritual people at all. I was not in an environment that I could just share that without knowing they would just call me crazy. So I hid a lot at first. My parents knew I couldn't sleep and there was something wrong, but they would take me to doctors. I developed very strong insomnia because of this fear. So that is how it began. In a way, of course, it sucked to have insomnia. At the same time, they led me to this awareness that there was something more. It's like, why can I hear all these things that nobody can hear? Because I know I'm not crazy. I know there's something going on here. It led me to have this question of, what is this place? What is this so called reality, really? There's so much more to what we can see. So, for a long time, that was the main drive in my spiritual path. I wanted to know, what is this place, really? Because, yeah, just following this clear thing that I was hearing all the time, and at the same time looking for ways to protect myself, because my first contact with spirituality, mysticism, wasn't exactly beautiful rainbow love and light. It was, there's something scary out there. So I also wanted to be able to protect myself. So this is what really started me on the path. And for a long time my spirituality was very linked to mysticism, to playing with energy, with this love for magic, in a way, love for energy work, um, driven by knowing, what is this place. And at that point, I wasn't really uniting spirituality with personal development and joy or anything like that. It was very disconnected. And as I said, I went to business school, I had regular jobs, and I did all this work on the side. And because I didn't link spirituality with personal development, it was all about the mystic part that didn't do much for my life in terms of joy and happiness. I still had like breakdowns, I still had anxiety, I still had issues struggling with my job and all those things. Because it took me a long time to understand that the key question of spirituality was not, what the hell is this place? The key question is, who am I?
Yeah.
And it took me so long because of the way that my first experiences were to get there. But when I got there and understood that the core question is, who am I? Then everything changed. And then it was a new step in my progress, so to
And
speak.
when did you say you first thought about the who am I question? Was it much farther down the line?
Well, I had heard the question many times because I joined mystery schools very early in life. And that was the question that they brought all the time. It was just not resonating with me. It was just like not meaning anything to me. It's like people would say, "Who are you?" I was like, I know who I am. It's like I couldn't, at that point in my life, I couldn't see the layers of the question because really my focus was not there. I just wanted to like understand energy and be a magician, It was like a completely different focus. And I had to had a breakdown. Like I got to a point around 28 years old that I absolutely hated my life. And I was like, okay, there's something very wrong here. And I went to a holiday with a few friends, like a surfing holiday, and like a week surfing. And for whatever reason, I decided that I was going to take three Buddhist books with me. Like, I need to read these three books. And it was when I read those three books in a very short period of time that a lot of connections were made, and then it could really grasp the question and what it was trying to say. And it all went very fast after that, especially because I had already done so much work before that. Because there were so many components that were already in me, I just couldn't link them. So the moment that I could link them, I was like, okay, now I know what to do.
Now it makes sense. Yeah. So, what does the question "Who am I" mean to you now after you've done all that work? I'm curious if you could share that with us.
I mean, there's so many different points about this question. And it begins with the realization that many things that we identify ourselves with are not us. So first is this identification with emotions and with thoughts, that so many of the things that are driving our lives are not really us. Many times we can understand that at a mental level. It is quite easy to say, I'm not my thoughts, not my emotions, but 5 minutes later, we are overreacting to our emotions. So
Absolutely.
knowing something doesn't mean actually embodying it. Knowing something is the major play of the ego. because the ego tells you, you know it, so you don't need to do anything more. And then you stay at that, you don't actually do the work. Because deep down, when we say, who am I? We're trying to separate ourselves from the ego. And that's why the ego is so good at playing, because the moment that you really embody who you are, there is no more ego. So the ego is going to do everything it can to fight for its life, so to speak. So it's creating this separation between who am I and who am not I. The thing is, the only reason why we think we are in our emotions is because we over identify ourselves with them. And so we become scared of letting them go, because that's all we know about ourselves. It becomes like a psychological suicide. We suffer
Mm.
for something that there is no actual reason to suffer for. A process of understanding who am I is also identifying ourselves with who we truly are, which is love, light, and will. We are divinity. And it can be, I mean, sometimes I tell people, yes, we are divine. And some people answer me, yeah, I know it. But they don't really live divinely, which is the same play of the ego. And other times I tell people the same thing. People say, like, what the hell are you talking about? Because it's something you actually have to experience. You really need to come in touch with yourself of who you are. It is quite easier to say, who am I, when we think about mental models? Like, are you your job? Are you the roles that you play? Are you the son? Are you the father, the employee? Like, what, if you take away any of those roles, do you stop being who you are? What is it that define you? If you lose an arm, are you no longer you? And we start taking stuff out. We take everything out until we try to find out what is still there, no matter what.
That's such a beautiful way to put it, right? Because no matter which layer you remove, the one that's visible to the outside world, it doesn't change who you are. Like in the example you gave, losing an arm, knock on wood, that type of stuff, they may make you more miserable now and hate certain parts, but it doesn't change who you are at the core. And I never
Yes.
thought of it that way. That's such a beautiful way to put it. Now, would you say then that in order to get to the point where you can really answer the question of who you are or who I am, and really get to that point, you need to have some solid foundations in place for your spiritual growth? Like, because you said you did a lot of this work, which also made it easy for you to find the answer, but you couldn't get to the answer until you put all this work in.
Well, the foundations make it easier. They do give you the support of, like, the understanding of what's going on. The more present we are, the more ability we have of being self-aware, because we can catch ourselves deceiving ourselves. The more clarity we have, the less illusions and fear can invade us. So those, for instance, are two of the solid foundations that I work with us, because we identify ourselves, for instance, with our fears, right? It's like, I'm so scared of something. I'm not allowing it to do. What the fear is actually doing is not allowing you to be you. It's something that is holding you back. And that is why it's part of your ego and not you. So everything that we think it's us, that we are reacting on, it's actually stopping us from being ourselves. So we have all these traps in our personality that are doing nothing but stopping us from being. And that's the work of who am I, is to allow dissolve all that is holding us back.
Okay, so when you finally had this realization, you understood who you are, what changed in your life? What were some of the big things that changed for you?
Feeling lighter,
Okay.
definitely just feeling lighter, because so much of what's weighting us down is things that we identify ourselves with. There is a great quote that is, everything that you identify yourself with controls you, and everything that you disidentify yourself with, you control it. So the moment that you know who you are, you just have more control over your life. You're starting to be a master of your life instead of being controlled by things. So you get more agency. You understand much more your power. You become more empowered, and you deal with fear much better. It's not like you don't have any fear at all, but you don't identify yourself with the fear. You can look at the fear and do it anyway. So you become having a much stronger sense of who you are and being much more true to yourself.
Yeah. So it sounds like that was your pivotal moment, right? That maybe transition was it the time when you transitioned from working as a business developer or product manager into being on your full spiritual path? Or did you start that before you identify or you understood who you are?
Well, The thing about grasping who we are is that we have glimpses of it every now and then in this path. But the glimpses are not necessarily close to each other. And sometimes we lose faith in between the glimpses. And it's almost like we need to go back to having those glimpses to return our faith and our hope all the time. But as we keep on the path, those glimpses get closer and closer together, stronger and stronger. It's almost like we're starting to anchorage inside of us. It's not just more an experience, it becomes an embodied being in us. So it is a process. It is not like, oh, I had a glimpse. I know who I am because I was in the ceremony and I experienced it for 1 hour and everything is going to change now. Not really, because life is going to continue as it is. And we're going to have to keep on remembering all the time and bringing it together. So we need to have more and more experiences and integrate it more and more until it becomes a stronger constant in us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's such a, I mean, that's such an interesting way to look at it, right? Because I've seen it in myself and in others as well, where you have a revelation, you have one of these glimpses, and you think you've solved something, but then you don't put the work to build on it and continue it, and then it goes away. Real life happens. And when I say real life, I mean, I'm talking about day to day life, right? The things that you are entrenched in, be it work, family, whatever it is. I'm curious, are some things that worked for you or people that you've worked with to either make these glimpses come more often or be stronger or to stay on that path, like you said, in between those glimpses? Is it like meditation or breathing exercise, or what have you seen work for you and others that you've worked with?
So I have three things that I'm very thankful for having helped me in my path. And one of them is definitely practices. Like do your spiritual practices every day. Because the more you do them, the more light will anchor on you and the easier we get to sustain that. Because otherwise, our experiences are just that experiences, like nice hobbies, but we cannot hold it. So, what daily spiritual practice does for us is that it expands our container so we can carry that light sustainably onwards within ourselves. If we only have glimpses, we cannot sustain it because we don't have a container that's strong enough to sustain that amount of light on and on. Actually, many people who have strong rituals, they actually lose it very fast because it was such a burst of energy. And if they don't have a daily practice, their system is not strong enough to hold it. And that's,
So
yeah.
beautiful. Yes.
So be it yoga, meditation, there's so many different practices. It really depends on the lineage that you are in. Different lineages are going to have different practices, but
Mm.
like really living it is crucial. So this is one.
That's okay. So let me, before we go to the next two, if I may ask, you said it depends on the lineage. It depends, of course, on your culture, your background. How is one way that, let's say, our audience and even myself, how could we find what those spiritual practices are? Because I'm assuming it's like tools, right? So a tool may work for me but may not work for you. How
Yeah.
do we find that? Like, are there people to talk to, places to check?
I mean, there's so many different lineages, and I am part of one, for instance. And I, of course, I've been in different lineages and all initiatory lineages and mystery schools. I changed them as I thought that I needed that this is not for me. I'm going to try something else. So it's okay to try different things until we find something. The trick here of the ego, the trap, is to keep exploring only and never actually commit to one. Because eventually you need to say, this is the one that I'm going to stay with. Maybe 3 years after you want to change, but we need to commit to something so that we can go deep enough to have the energy shift. If we do one thing here, one thing there, no energy actually builds up on us. And this is what solid foundations are. It is allowing that energy to build up, which requires commitment, which requires repetition, which requires going deeper and deeper into the onion. Because every single practice, we might think some practices are simple and easy, but the more we do them, the more layers we see they have. So it does require commitment. Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like when I started this idea of the podcast, I'm like, oh, it's going to be easy. All the information is out there. Then the more I peel the layers back to your example, the more I realized I knew nothing and I have to put so much more work and so much more research. And it sounds like we can use a similar analogy to what you said. So let's take an example then. If it's yoga, if it's meditation, the idea is, yeah, you can do it superficially, but you really need to dig deep to see if it's for you, right? And then if it's not, move on to the next thing and try that.
Yeah, and especially because many lineages they start in a very simple way because well you're new to it, But the more you progress, the more reach and the more amount of mysteries are revealed. And I love talking about yoga about that, because most people in the Western world think of yoga as just like physical positions. But yoga is incredibly deep. I don't even, it's like a mystery school in itself. You know, it has so many different limbs and philosophies and types of meditations and rituals. You can go on in yoga forever and not know anything. So there's
Mm.
a like sometimes we oversimplify things without fully, we just rob it of its essence. So I'm saying that because I'm also a yoga teacher. I'm always fascinated by yoga, even though it's not my main thing. But I know I can always rely with it on it because it has such a depth energetically. Yeah.
So it sounds like yoga is part of your spiritual routine, right? Or spiritual foundation, right? Like
Yes.
what allows you to get to. Okay. And so you said that was the first of three. What were the other two elements?
So the other one is initiation, which is something that it's I know it's not part of most people's mindsets when they think about spirituality, but my path has always been mystery schools. I joined the Rosicrucian Order, was 14, Gnosis later, Tantra, which is more like Eastern school, and Modern Mystery School. They are all initiation based. So you actually receive different rituals that expand your consciousness, that change your energetic field, allowing certain energies to enter you that couldn't before the initiation, before the ritual. It is a little bit of a death and rebirth process there. And many old lineages have that. It is an alchemical process that happens there, because a part of knowing who we are is to let go of what we're not. But another part is having internal alchemical processes that allows spirit to reveal itself. And this is what initiation like
Does.
is does. And it's just part of a progression, so to speak, because also the more initiations we have, more things get to be revealed to us, and bigger is our ability to circulate certain energies.
Okay. Okay. And let me ask you this. So you mentioned it, the a lot the idea that letting go of the things that we are not to truly reveal who we are. This may be a stupid question, but deep down, does everyone know who they are? It's just that because of the things that they are not and the ego, those things, the who you are doesn't actually surface up. Or is the who we are, or deep down, something that we have to work on to reveal it, and we truly don't know until we peel the layers back and then be like, oh, we've done enough work. Now I know who I am. It might be a question that cannot be answered. I'm just thinking out loud.
It's a little bit of both. In a way, we are creating things on top of things. We have this fear and then this mental construct, and we keep on adding those layers of complexity. And there are so many layers that we cannot see what was always there. In
Okay. Yeah.
what point is
Yeah.
that? You just there's some people. I'm in Brazil, right? And there's like some people in Brazil that love to say that spirituality is a cleaning process. We're just getting rid of all the dirt that so we can see what was always there, and that is a big part of it. Still, we can work in this thing that was always there, so they can actually expand, and this is what chemical processes are. So that it reveals itself, so to speak.
Okay. So initiation was number two. What's number three then on that list
Yeah,
of
the
yours?
number three can be also very unexpected, but it is energy healing sessions. And I don't mean here energy healing as any kind of shortcut. It's not like you can just go to some healings that you always be fine. It's not like a massage therapy. Oh, every time I have some pain, I'm just gonna go there and she will fix it. It's not that. But if we're actually doing the practices every day, which is number one, a lot of our energy will start moving around. And it's not different from an athlete, like if you're training very hard, you might need some support to clear yourself so you can keep doing it. So if you're doing a lot of energy work, you're going to be moving your energy a lot with your practices, and there'll be a lot of things going around in your field. And what good energy work can do for you is help you eliminate that out of your system faster. So
Uh,
yeah, so
so
I
when
see
you say
it
eliminate,
plus
it's
support.
eliminating the bad energies or the negative energies and allowing the life energies or the good energies to have more space to move around and stay
Yeah,
retained.
it's catalyzing your work. Taking that you're doing the practices, taking that you're doing your work, the healing sessions will catalyze your work. And it's like you can do it without the healing sessions, but it will take you much longer and much more energy, because proper spiritual growth energy work, like in yourself in practices, can be very heavy. Sometimes we're really fighting with some things that we're so attached to. They're really like lingering in us. And it's like what energy work can do is help us like facilitate those processes. So I myself take energy healing sessions every now and then just to help me with certain processes because I don't think I have to do everything alone. I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I think there's no absolute right and wrong in life or in this path. Every situation is a situation. Sometimes, if we want to do everything alone, that can be hiding some arrogance and pride. If we're always running for help, that can show us that we're not being very resilient. But sometimes we need help. Sometimes we need to do it alone. And that is discernment. And discernment is key. Yeah.
I absolutely love that message, and it resonates with me because I've seen it in life many, many times when I try to do a lot of things alone, but it's not until I actually allow others in my life and allow others to help and guide or give me that point of view I missed to bring me up to the next level, essentially. And you're absolutely, I mean, I agree 100% what you said, right? It's like, yes, you can do it all alone, but is it the right thing?
Yeah.
Or do you always rely on people, right? It's a fine balance like everything else in life.
Exactly. Yeah.
So once you had that aha moment, what happened next for you? Like once you had a good understanding, okay, this is who I am. I finally understand the question.
Well, what happened for me even before I got to that point, I was feeling something big was coming, and I
Mhm.
couldn't break myself into two anymore. So I had my office job, and I had all my practices, and I got to a point that because my spirituality was not the most normal one, I didn't share with people. So I got to a point where I was feeling very like split. I
Yes,
had this life and this life, and I couldn't do this anymore. And I got to a point like, no, I just have to quit my job. I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but I have to quit. It's like it's so clear. I have to quit. And then it became like this huge shift because I quit my job and then I left my town and then my relationship broke up and it's like I cannot do any of this anymore. It was not one thing. It's like everything is wrong. Like this is not my life. This is not what I came here for. And I still didn't have the answer, but I just like I know it's coming and I need to give everything I have. This is the only way that it will come. I have to give 100% of me. There's no like just half doing this.
yeah. So you trusted that feeling, you trusted yourself, and you trusted whatever message you were receiving that this is the path you need to go on. It must have been really tough, I would imagine.
Yeah, and at that point, I had no idea that I was going to work with spirituality. I was still only doing this for me. I had no idea what I was going to work with. I was, I just have to do this for my own well being, for my own happiness. And I quit my job, like thinking maybe I was going to go only on 6 months sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
And I started playing with some business ideas, and then I realized that no, I just have to leave this town. And then it became 1 year, and then it became 2 years. So it was I don't know how it worked until this time. People asks me like, how can you have gone on sabbatical for songs? Like I don't know. I just had to do it, and it worked out. It's have to trust sometimes. And I mean, some people say, yeah, so like courageous to have quit everything. And when I connect to it now, I feel like the most courageous part was not leaving it, was sticking to it because I stick to it 1 year after and 2 years after, and I still didn't know what I was going to do. I could have gone back at any time. It's like that's not a chance. That's not what I came here to do. That I don't want to go back to prison. And I don't say anything bad
Going back to not
about
being who you are,
myself.
right?
Came here to do that. It was just like it was not me, and it doesn't matter what kind. Like that's my path, and I'm gonna do it no matter what. Yeah.
Wow, that's such an inspiring story, right? Because I mean, it sounds very challenging to leave everything behind, not only your job, but people in your life, places that were familiar. That must have been something else. So you say it took a couple of years. So what happened over those years? Like, of course, I'm assuming you had some big challenges to overcome, right? Some internal doubts, some concerns. So what happened next?
I just followed my call, went into different courses and different retreats and different places on my own. Just went on this very long journey on my own. And it didn't make any sense because I didn't plan anything. If you look at the map, I just went like back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean. It's like nothing of it made any analytical
Logical
sense.
sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But I just kept going around and like Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Morocco, Sahara, Egypt, Greece. I just went to all places that I was supposed to go, and I
And
kind of
how
stayed
did
that
you pick
way.
those places? Like, did those places come to you, or you just, or something guided you to those places?
I just knew I had to go there, and I never knew much ahead. I only knew like 3 weeks before going somewhere. So
Wow, that now that's a story. Yes,
so
that's
yeah.
amazing.
So it was I'm very glad I did it. Many times I wasn't even aware of why I was going to those places, but I just followed. So
The
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
So it's almost like you had to learn lessons in each of those places. So was it then 2 years after this started, or about then, when you had the realization of, that big aha moment with who
Yeah.
you are? Okay.
Yeah, I don't even I fe it was a very slow process. It was a slow process, and it was grabbing a little piece of who I am here and another piece of who I was there, and little by little having more of those insights until to a point that is like, yeah, if you sit and meditate, give it 20 minutes and it will come. So it gets easier and easier. But of course, it's very hard to always stay there. Of course, I have periods in my day that I also disconnect and I have to go back to it. It is very difficult to stay in this place of 100%, always living in your divinity. And this is the main work for me right now in my own path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, would you say now that your human experience is connected to your spiritual experience, right? So essentially, the two of them are no longer separate; they're now together. Do you find that they're now together almost all the time? Because I know you just mentioned they still feel separate at times. Is the goal for them to be 100% all the time, or is the goal to make sure that there's a good connection and you never disconnect from one or the other?
Well, I am connected to my spiritual life 100% of the time, whether I'm aware of my divinity all the time. That is what I forget. So
Um,
different things.
Different
Uh,
things.
so I feel like the more and more we are aware of the spirituality of everything, like chairs are just energy, like everything is just energy. And the more we can read life as a symbol, like everything is constantly communicating with you. So that is what we're working on, as well as it's just a natural consequence actually of opening ourselves up, because everything is happening at once and together. It's only a matter of where we put our attention on, what are we deciding to focus on, and every single second.
Okay. So then what you do now versus what you did before you became a spiritual guide, a healer. Can you tell us a bit about the work you do now as a result
Yeah.
of all the work you've done on yourself?
So I've been working now for a few years as a spiritual guide and healer full time. I was already a healer before for quite a while, but I was a healer like it was a side thing. I never thought I was gonna be a healer. And then at some point, yeah, this is became so clear. This is it. Aline Ra M, I had to change my name. I got this strong message saying everything that I should do. So it wasn't like I out of nowhere decided, oh, I'm going to be a spiritual guide. It was more like I got a strong message of 1 second that was like reading a full book in 1 second, and it said everything. It said, you have to change your name. This is your slogan. This is your method. This is how you work with people. This is your color. This is your everything.
Oh
It's like,
wow.
this is what you do. This is, it's like, this is your mission,
You
kind
still
of. Go
remember
do it.
all of that? You still remember all the entire
Oh, yeah.
message?
It was very strong. It was one of the most important seconds of my life. It was a life-changing second
And how
because
did they come to you, if I may ask? Did they come to you in meditation, yoga? Or
I was relaxing. I was actually in Ecuador. I was on a hammock in Ecuador. It was a full moon day and it was like Capricorn, which is connected to work, but I wasn't doing anything full moon related. It was like daytime and I was just relaxing on the hammock, like after lunch. And I just like got out of it. It's like, okay, now I know what I have to do. And it was still a big process because, again, even though I was in this path for quite a while, I never thought I was going to work with it. And
Mhm.
getting a message telling me that I was a spiritual guide, it took me months to work on my own self judgment of who the hell am I to call myself a spiritual guide. Like,
Mhm.
that was the first work to even like dealing with my own self criticism and how are people gonna take this and people are gonna laugh at me, like, like every single thing you can think about. That was the first thing. It's like, okay, if I'm gonna do this because I'm clearly doing this because this message was very clear, well, I gotta work a bit on my own self limitations, on the things that are stopping me from being me, which are judgment, shame, and fear. So these are the culprits of the ego. This is what is always stopping us, even when we know who we are. So they're doing they will do everything they can to stop us. This is their mission, and we have to be as strong as we can to rely on our essence because we know. So
Yes.
so that was my work. And after that, I started to actually calling myself that. And first, I would put spiritual guide as the second part. I was a healer and a spiritual guide. And then, oh, okay, no, now I'm ready to call myself a spiritual guide and healer. It's like it was a step by step as I dissolved my own blockages. And now I feel very confident in it because I know what I can do and I know what I'm doing for people. I can see everything happening and I can receive the messages much faster. But it was a huge journey to get here. And I had to deal with so much discomfort within myself.
Oh, it
Uh,
sounds like it. It sounds like it's been a very challenging journey, right?
yeah.
And so, what does a spiritual guide mean to you? The reason I ask this is because, of course, spirituality means a lot of things to different people,
Yeah.
and then a guide can mean different things as well. I'm wondering, how do you see spiritual guiding? Like, what does it mean to you and to those that you help?
So my job as a spiritual guide is to make sure people are on their path, that people don't get out of their path. So my main job is to make sure they stick to their path and showing them when, okay, I think you're crossing a line that is taking you out. Let's come back to the path now. And I channel practices to people that will support them in their current blockages. So that is one of the main things that I do in practice. I receive a lot of messages about the people that I'm guiding, so I know exactly what is energetically happening to them and what
Mm.
they need to stay in their path. I do also healing sessions that allow their energy also to clear out. Ultimately, the work of a spiritual guide, why do we want to keep people in their path? Ultimately, we want to relieve people's suffering because suffering comes from attachment and illusion of who we think we are. So as we release suffering from a truthful point of view, what we're increasing is people's authentic joy and ability to be themselves, know their true selves. And
Mm.
this is what will take them to live divinely and joyfully. So that is the connection, even if we think about traditionally, like Buddha is always saying, right? Like we are always saying, always said. But yeah, like it is ultimately about freeing ourselves from suffering. And what is suffering? Suffering is ego. Suffering is what covering our true nature and essence that is divine. The more we know who we truly are, the less we suffer and the more joy we cultivate. That doesn't mean life will be perfect. Challenges will all exist because we can only grow through challenges. But there is a difference between seeing a challenge as something that you cannot grow and not something that is bringing you despair and drama in life from being attached to everything and not being able to see through anything. So we release suffering by releasing from illusion.
Wow, that's such an amazing message. Love it. I feel inspired myself, and this is such a beautiful conversation, and I'm learning so much. So, as a spiritual guide, I would imagine that the way you work with each individual that comes your way is different, right? Because I would imagine there's no one tool that works for everyone. What are some challenges you're seeing the people you work with have to face that are more common, and maybe you can give us some ideas on how people can start overcoming those before they can work with someone like you?
So I actually have two different programs that I offer people that want to work one on one with me. And one is exactly like you just said, like every person has a different path, and I cannot do something that works for everybody because I need to channel what is working with them. But I did create a program that is for people who are beginning on the path because there are some certain things that benefit everybody that creates those solid foundations. So some basic toolbox that will give people resources to better master themselves. So we all can better release from blockages within our body, traumas are stored. So there are certain techniques that can be simple, even like shaking, that can help us a lot breathing properly. Everybody can improve breathing properly, and doing specific breath work and having the knowledge of different breath works that are for different things. So, depending on what they need, they can go to different techniques. So, there are a few things that everybody who is starting can benefit from to build this preliminary toolbox before going to more advanced programs full of tailor-made techniques. So
That makes sense. Absolutely. And I know, so going back to a couple of things that you mentioned earlier, right? Like living with purpose, right? Living on your path. As you mentioned, as spiritual guide, you keep people on the path. Would you say that in your case you found your purpose through the message, but you couldn't get that message until you understood who you are? Would you say that that's the case for most people that you've worked with, or the ones you've interacted with, that to be able to find your purpose you need to truly understand who you are first, or they kind of go hand in hand?
they go hand in hand. And in a way, the moment that I got that message is the point that I understood who I was truly am. What you came here to do, your purpose, is directly connected to who you truly are. Because our purpose is not something disconnected. When we're doing our purpose, we're doing nothing but expressing our being. So the moment that you understand who you truly are, you directly understand what you came here to do. So
Okay.
I don't separate those two. And I actually think sometimes people are pursuing purpose from the wrong angle because they're looking for an answer to what the hell do with their lives. And the real thing that we need is just understand who you are and you get to live your life. That's all you came here to do. Living your life will allow you to do what you came here to do. But if you are not living your life, your purpose is just another have to in life. It will just become a struggle. The answer is find out who you are and everything will be so much clearer because so many other answers are answered when you know who you truly are. You understand reality much better. You understand illusions and attachment much better. You understand what you came here to do. It's a question that is a lot more work, but it answers so
Mhm.
many things at once. It dissolves so many illusions at once.
Yeah, and well, that makes sense. I know it's. I'm trying to think of it, right, and it sounds like it's a huge task. So, what would you say if someone wants to go on this journey because they've always had these questions, or they know, or they believe they might be on a journey? Where do they start? Yes, of
Self
course, I
love.
imagine it starts with yourself, but
Yeah.
where do you start?
You start with self love. You
Okay.
really start with self love. The only way we can keep doing this journey is because we love ourselves so much that how could we stop ourselves from living more joyfully, from how could we diminish ourselves or hold ourselves back when we love ourselves? I don't think most people actually understand what self love is. But self love is wanting you to be you and not accepting being reduced by fear, being reduced by shame, or shutting yourself down. Because that is not in your love, self love's most interest. Like self love is wanting you to be nourished and to grow and to be free. And if we do, we go on this journey that is, we have to look at our shadows. We have to look into our pains and our blockages. There's a lot of things that can be very heavy sometimes. If we do it because we feel like we have to, and like we would be like, it would be so much struggle again. It's just like pushing things through. And if we cannot have self compassion and some mercy, that it is okay. We're doing our best and we will keep on going and we're doing what is best for us, but there's no need to beat ourselves down. I mean, that is the way that we can keep walking forward and actually enjoy. It's we have to go back to this self-care and self-love. And self-love is not to cut ourselves slack. Self-love is not to allow ourselves to stop and just like watch Netflix. That's not self-love. That is quite the opposite of self-love. That is
Mm.
stopping us from being ourselves. Self-love is I love myself so much that I cannot wait to live the life I came here to live and live more joyful. Because it's and that is the drive. That is the real drive to keep going.
That's such a deep message. That's
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
I'm becoming emotional just listening to you and watching your emotions come through and your energy, and it's I can't even explain it. As it's powerful.
Thank you.
I'm almost speechless here, but I'm trying to look through some of the notes I took here and see, because I have so many questions, and this is such a an inspiring conversation and empowering at the same time too. Because by the sound of it, actually, this is a question to you. It sounds like first, everyone has a purpose. They may not know it, and they have a true themselves within them. It's just a matter of, do they want to get to the bottom of it or not? Do they want to become their true selves?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what would you say to the skeptics, to the people that say, you know what, Aline, I don't know. I don't understand what she's talking about, or I don't resonate with it. What would you say to those people, or are those people not ready for this work, and it's just a different path for them?
Well, we all have free will. We all have free will. And I mean, nobody has to believe in me and nobody has to be spiritual. Many people are not spiritual and are living their purpose. And it's okay. There's so many different paths and so many different ways to live our divine lives. I don't expect people to believe in me. I grew up with two scientist parents that up to today don't believe in anything I do. So I can handle skepticism quite well.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way you answered that. But I mean, what I was trying to get to, I wasn't necessarily implying that, everyone has to believe this, but more like, if let's say you want to help people that are a bit more skeptical, is that just forcing it then so you don't do it? Or if someone is a skeptic but has a bit of an open mind, there's a bit of hope for work with those individuals? Or how does this work? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Like, when do you know when you want to help someone versus there is no cost because they're on their own path, they're doing their own thing, so there's no point.
I only help people that want to be helped. I cannot help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. It's very simple. It's
So
not a it's very simple. It's like you can only help people that want to be helped. There is no there's this example that is like somebody is trying to help this blind lady cross the street, but she didn't want to help. She has crossed the street many times. Maybe she did want to help, but then she would probably ask. And I feel like sometimes we're trying to save people that don't want to be saved, and it doesn't work like that. It starts with free will. I can only do things for people that want to work with me. It is like,
that
and
makes sense, right? You're not forcing anything, because it kind of goes back to the life you had before, right? Because it was forced, and you know how miserable things were because you're
yeah.
forcing yourself to do things that were unnatural to you. So this makes so much sense.
Yeah, and another thing I didn't share before about my journey is that before I was a spiritual guide and when I was just on my path, one thing that I did was writing. I started writing very early. It was just a way for me to. I still write every single week. I have this newsletter that I love writing. So I write these articles exploring different subjects of spiritual growth, and I published them on Medium and everything. And when I first started writing, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring these ideas to people who never heard of it and bring more people into spirituality. And it took me a while to understand that that was not the point at all. I was writing to people that already believed, what I was writing, but they were either alone and isolated, like around people that didn't believe them. That my writing is just bringing them this feeling of, I'm not alone. I'm
Yeah,
not the only one who thinks like that. And giving them some encouragement to stick to themselves, that they know they have it. Or to people that also already believed in that, already were aligned with me, but couldn't articulate it. They knew there was something inside of them, but they couldn't put the words. And then when they read what I wrote, it's like, oh, okay, this is what I was thinking, you know. So it's much more a process of allowing some people to go through their own process, but a process had already started, than changing somebody's mind through a single conversation. And I think sometimes I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to help people that want to start on their path so that they can go on their path with some guidance and with like more safety and knowing what is the next step, just that's what I
yeah,
can do.
yeah.
I'm not here to, yeah, convert anybody. Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be. I resonate with that 100%. And it's like you're sharing the beautiful message you have received and you have learned over the hard years of work you had to put in. And if people are open to receiving it, that means they're on the same frequency level as you, or at the same energy level, and they can receive it. And with a bit of help or guidance, they can not struggle and go off path as much as they used to.
Yeah, and different people need different things, right? Like I am not scientific in any way. I never put sources of researchers in anything I do. So, and some people need that, and the people that need that will never be appealed to the way that I communicate. And there are other spiritual great spiritual teachers that will bring those references to people, and they will have those teachers. There's so many different people covering things from different perspectives, and we all get to work with the people that resonate with us. And it's okay. We don't have to force ourselves to be something we're not. We have to trust that we will be put together with our people.
Yeah, once you truly understand yourself, right, and you do that work, like you said, understand who you're not, then it becomes a bit more clear the people you resonate with and the people you want to be around with.
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
this is a lot. This has been amazing so far. I can't thank you enough for taking time to talk to us and share your wisdom. And I will sign up to your newsletter. It sounds amazing. Speaking of that, where can people sign up for your newsletter?
I should go on my website, alinedram.com/subscribe. That's very easy. I'll send you the link later as well for the
Got
show.
it. We'll put them in the description for those that want to click on it directly. We had such a deep conversation so far, and I know there's a lot to unpack and process. I do like to ask two questions towards the end of the conversation that are a bit different than what we discussed, if I may.
Okay.
And it has to do with time travel, in the sense that, let's say you could go back in time 10 years, right, to your younger self when you were still struggling on this path, and you could give yourself one piece of advice that could make your journey easier or could do anything that you think could benefit you, what would it be?
I think just to not take things so seriously, because I had a moment there that's like, I was just in a rush, like I need to know this. And it's like, no, take it easy, enjoy, go dancing, it's fine. I think yeah, I would try to remind myself of that.
And I think that's such a powerful message for people as well, because in this day and age, and I look at myself and my life and my coworkers and my friends, because of commitments with work and family and chores and everything, everyone is in a rush, right? You don't stop to smell the flowers, as they say. You
Yeah,
don't stop to enjoy nature when you walk.
yeah,
And it sounds like that's pretty much the message you will give yourself is just, take it easier, just stop, enjoy the moments.
joy. Yeah, absolutely. Go play.
Awesome. Yeah. So now let's say the second part of this is, we travel now in the future, right? 10 years from now, you see yourself, your older self, as this amazing spiritual guide and healer, your practice, all the amazing people you've helped on their journey, and you get to have a 15-minute conversation with your older self. What's one piece of advice you'd want to bring back, or something from that older self of you that you would want to bring back and apply into your life today?
Just keep going for it, like keep trusting, because there's no other way to get there. Gotta trust.
So
Never.
when you say trust your heart, right? Trust
Yeah,
what's coming from within you.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Gotta keep walking forward. Yeah.
This is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Aline, so much for today.
Thank
If
you for
someone
having
wants to learn more about you, I know you shared your website. Are
me.
you on any social media where you're active that you would want people to maybe go check out your work?
I think the best way is really to just sign up on my website. I have quite a few different free materials. Like I have a free ebook on what spiritual growth, and for people that are not really sure what they want, there is an ebook about 9 reasons why you don't know what you want. So because social media and me, we have a love-hate relationship.
That's good. That's fine.
So I always, if I create a video, I enjoy creating YouTube videos sometimes because I feel like I can talk more. Yeah, I'm not that crazy about the short messaging sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your everything you've shared today is so deep, right? You need more than just a few words and just a few seconds to share that. And it also takes time to process, right? Because I'm looking at myself and trying to absorb all the pieces of wisdom you shared. And it's like, wow, I need to sit with this. I can't just think and be like, okay, the answer is here. You have to truly sit and look at it. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on before we go today that you think may benefit the audience or even you to share with others around the work you do, around any of the lessons learned, or anything else?
So there is one quote that I love that I don't even know where it comes from. But it goes like this: do everything as if it was all that mattered, and do it knowing it doesn't matter at all.
Wow, wow.
And it's really take this with us sometimes that yeah, it is giving ourselves 100% to life. There is no playing safe, it's to surrender to it, but not taking ourselves so seriously at the same time. It's
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 almost like living without expectations, right? Like just do it, enjoy the experience, and don't expect anything, and allow it to be whatever it is. Almost.
and no, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out. And it's like nothing is that serious, you know? It's once we understand ourselves as immortal, eternal beings, relativity becomes a whole other
Yeah.
perspective. And sometimes we think things are too serious, like, oh, my life depends on it. And truly, it doesn't. It doesn't. But you still have to do it well done and surrender to it,
Yes,
and give
absolutely.
yourself to it. It's just, yeah, when we can be there 100% but not be heavy, then we've done it. And that is what living in duality means. It's both at the same time. It's the integration of polarity. It's not just one or the other. Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. That's yeah, yeah. I can see that. I can definitely visualize that. But definitely something to sit with and let it simmer and see what it means to me. And of course, to those that are going to watch and listen to this. Wow. Okay, Aline, I can't thank you enough. I'm so grateful to have had a chance to speak with you and learn from you, and humbled to have had this conversation. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us today. To find out more amazing content and episodes, please visit unleashthyself.com, or you can find us on social media.